Good day. My name is Dr. Brent Smith, Professor of Marketing at Emerson College and board member at the International Luxury Hotel Association. I have the pleasure of speaking today with Mr. Brian Lowe, President and co-founder of Proper Hospitality, based in Santa Monica, California. Mr. Lowe is a graduate of the University of Southern California's Marshall School of Business. Proper Hospitality operates high-end lifestyle hospitality experiences under its Proper, Avalon, and Custom brands. As president at Proper Hospitality, Mr. Lowe is responsible for finding and developing properties situated in culturally vibrant cities and neighborhoods. He brings together a team of talented people in design, food and beverage, health and wellness, and hospitality to make the buildings come alive as unique, one-of-a-kind, high-end lifestyle hotels. He also oversees overall strategy and the conceptualization and development of the Proper brand, as well as strategic and culinary partnerships. Mr. Lowe's career in the US and Latin America has involved a broad array of responsibilities, including but not limited to acquisitions, business development, redevelopment of urban multifamily properties, adaptive reuse, and various hotel projects. Thank you for joining us on this November day in the year 2020. It's been quite a year thus far. Let's talk about what has happened and what we might look forward to in the future as it relates to Proper Hospitality. So let's get started. So Brian, it's a pleasure to join you today.
Likewise, Brent, thanks for that introduction.
Indeed, indeed. So I figure we should start with a very important question that relates to the guest. Who is your guest? And related to a luxury hotel, how would you say you've defined luxury travel in your space?
Well, thanks, Brent. I'd say I appreciate you even suggesting that we're redefining luxury travel. That said, I really do think we're filling a void in the luxury hotel market. We're creating hotels that are special and unique and hopefully will stand the test of time. We wanted to create hotels that spoke to the next generation of high-end travelers who yearn for hotels that are offer elevated services and amenities, like what you could find at a traditional luxury hotel, but also, truly memorable stays and cultural connectivity that you typically can only get in an independent boutique hotel. It's a luxury that combines the best of unique and an eclectic and luxurious design of Kelly Wearstler, who's our design partner on all our Proper hotels, with the carefully curated, one-of-a-kind experiences and programming and food and beverage offerings and amenities that we offer to locals and visitors alike. You mentioned kind of who is that guest. I think, yes. Maybe compared to your typical more millennial-focused boutique hotel, our guests skew a little bit older, and maybe compared to a traditional luxury hotel, our guests skew younger. But really, our guests are everyone. Our hotels are. It's more about kind of the likes of the hotel guests. It's for high-end travelers who appreciate great design. That's a kind of flagship part of all of our hotels, and are really those that are looking to have it all under one roof. So the hospitality and the service, the delicious food and beverage from local restaurateur partners of ours, the amazing fitness center. It's a real focus of our hotels is the innovative wellness. And then, just gorgeous lobby lounges for hanging out and working, rooftop to, swim in and have, has a great vibe at night. And then the guest rooms that are beautifully appointed and quiet and, kind of a good respite from all the action down below.
All right. Thank you very much. Well, as I've noted in our introduction, 2020 has been quite a year thus far. So maybe you could share with us a few of the challenges that you've encountered in your space.
Challenges in 2020? I haven't had any of those. No. I mean, it's like, where do I begin in terms of challenges? Mm-hmm. We started the year flying high, I would say, at Proper. We had opened our flagship Santa Monica Proper Hotel in June of 2019. And then we opened our Austin Proper Hotel in December of 2019. And we were slated to open Hotel June shortly and a few other exciting things in the pipeline. And then boom, March 2020 was when it really hit us, hit most of the world really, and turned everything upside down. We shut down all our hotels, very quickly. Went through the awful experience of furloughing something like 1,000 employees and colleagues throughout our organization, which easily is the hardest thing I've had to deal with, as a leader in my career. Really just brutal. And then kind of as quickly as we could, we focused on, reopening and rehiring and doing it in a way that was smart and careful, and protect the safety of our guests and protect the safety of our colleagues. But we got all our hotels open. That was, I'd say, by about May. And then every month from May through until last month, October, has been better than the month before, in terms of our know-how of how to operate in this environment and just, revenues and the guest experience. And so that's great, but it doesn't mean the challenges are over. I think the hardest part right now is just not having any visibility on what the future holds. For us, even next week, it's hard for us to forecast what it's going to look like. With government shutdowns, regarding COVID, to boarded up cities, to the demand from guests changing. It's been really difficult. It's been a challenge. I'd say today the kind of main focuses of our company are to kind of address all the latest and greatest restrictions and making sure we're up to speed on, dining and what you can do, inside, all the COVID travel restrictions. I actually just saw today in California where I am, that there's another travel advisory out through the holidays for California. So we have a meeting later today to talk through that. And, there's talk of a whole shutdown, for 4 or 6 weeks across the country. So following all that, and then just, staying creative and trying to look for ways to engage with our guests and our communities better. Something I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit more later.
Okay, sure. So kind of traveling the route of the pandemic for a moment. So we've seen many businesses kind of contemplate ways to reset or streamline their priorities, right? As they've not been able to do everything they'd like to do. So what's an example of how you've done so? And maybe what are your top 3 priorities in the moment as they've been affected by the pandemic?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think all of us in any business have needed to kind of pivot, think about ways to operate differently and what to really focus on. For us, early on, we decided to double down on what makes our hotel so special and so attractive to the guest. And so rather than, panicking and, stripping away all the elements of the guest experience that I think makes proper special, we said, let's focus on those things. So one example is, and something that I think is so critical at this point, when most travel right now is leisure travel, is us kind of highlighting to the market that our urban hotels, because most of our hotels at this point are in cities and in urban areas, that they really are leisure-focused resorts themselves that just happen to be in cities. And so, that means that they're really perfectly suited for staycations and extended stays and workations and all those things. And so it's kind of the marketing side of getting that message out to our customers and to new customers. And then kind of on the back end, also thinking through, what we can do for our guests to make them feel like the experience really is so special and unique once they get here. And I think that kind of marketing and that kind of tweaking the guest experience has helped us outperform, the typical urban hotel in each of the markets that we're operating in. Another thing that I'd say we're putting a lot of focus on is food and beverage, especially since we have a lot of great outdoor spaces in all our hotels. As you know, many urban hotels haven't reopened yet. And some that have reopened, but they've reopened really carefully, where they're really trying to protect against, having too much labor and too many outlets open without knowing if the revenue is going to be there. And when we reopened, I'd say that was kind of our first thought as well. And then we really realized that the food and beverage experience at our hotels, which are so incredible and such an amazing part of what we do, is something we couldn't strip away. So we really did the opposite. And we put a lot of emphasis in the food and beverage offering and making food and beverage really special for our guests. And I'd say that's worked really well. And something I've been surprised by is it's worked well, not just to attract guests, but it's worked really well with, to make a spot that's special for all the locals, all the kind of neighborhood following that we have. And I'm hopeful that that loyalty from locals will remain, because they're a big part of our secret sauce as well.
All right, the secret sauce. It's always a key ingredient. Sure.
Yeah.
So we've also seen some evidence that you mentioned leisure travel is certainly atop the list of many folks, but we've also seen more people interested in travel that involves a shorter radius from home. How has that played into your business? And then we've also seen travelers looking for a more fulfilling experience once they get to their destination. So how are you dealing, I guess, with radius and then experience upon arrival and during stay?
Yeah, that's a good one. And, the vast majority of our guests are local, whether that's 5 minutes away or, a few hours drive away. Okay. I think people are yearning to get away. I mean, that's true. Everyone's all cooped up in their homes or in their apartments and wanting to get away. The question is, what are they looking for? Typically maybe they'd be jaunting off to some faraway land, to escape things and to have that unique experience. We think it's not necessarily the trip to some exotic place that kind of fulfills them. We think, it's escaping from, the everyday, monotony of your everyday life. And so, I don't think that escape needs to be more than kind of down the street from where you live. And it can be 5 minutes from your house and feel totally like it's a world away. So we provide amenities and dining and programming for people. And we have these spaces that are just so beautiful and unique and spectacular that I think people feel wonderful, staying with us or eating with us or even just spending a couple hours hanging out in our lobby. And so it's really about touching all the senses, what you see, the beautiful design and, beautiful people and just, having that energy to what you taste, in our restaurants or drink or, smell or hear. That's what I think is really critical.
Okay. All right. And some of what you've described to us in terms of what you try to build in with amenities maybe relates to this concept I've described to some as a question of where I want to go versus where I want to be. And so if you were to describe which of those two questions maybe aligns most closely to the proper portfolio, this is where you want to, where you want to go or where you want to be. Do you think, that your life what's the life of your brand in either of those questions?
Yeah, I mean, of course, I'd like to say that it's a little bit of both at a proper hotel. Okay. When we're a pretty small organization, and so when we're thinking about growth of our company and we're finding new locations to expand to, we're opening in places or cities that we actually want to spend time in, and there is in the normal world, I think there's more to just what's inside the walls of your hotel. It's about the connection to what surrounds you. And so if it passes the test for us because these hotel projects take a long time, if we're going to spend years in a location and we want to open a hotel there, usually that passing the test for us means that passes the test for our guests. But but then it's about what happens within the walls of our hotel and the experience we can provide for the guests, once they get there. And, travelers are looking for more inspiring environments, and they want to be inspired, but then they also want, something that feels like they're at home and they're comfortable. And so we try to do that through, the design and the food and beverage and the programming and everything else that we talked about before.
Right. Okay. Thank you. So arguably each of your hotels has its own unique identity that reflects the local culture, as you've alluded, right? So you've got properties in different locations. So can you tell us about an exciting project, new or kind of emerging, that you've worked on?
Well, our Hotel June in LA just opened a few months ago in June, in the middle of the pandemic. Thank you. That's a whole story there, opening in the middle of the pandemic, a new hotel and a new brand. And then we have our downtown LA proper hotel slated to open kind of anytime. It's probably going to open in the beginning of next year, in 2021. So maybe I'll start with that, and then I can talk about Hotel June as well. Okay. Downtown LA proper, incredible historic building, right on the southern end of the Broadway corridor in downtown LA. So it's at 11th and Broadway in downtown. Just close enough to LA Live and the Staples Center, to be able to drive business when that business comes back, but also just far enough away to not kind of feel like it's in the mix of LA Live, which isn't really on brand for our company. It's tricky as you're trying to find the perfect location for each of the hotel brands. The building's gorgeous, really storied history, lots of amazing spaces within the building. It was originally built as a gentleman's club. And so within the 13 or 14 story building, there's halfway up, there's a indoor swimming pool in the building. And there's also an indoor basketball court. So you can imagine the volume of the basketball court. And we've converted those two spaces to our two presidential suites in the building. So one of our presidential suites actually has your own private swimming pool within your guest room, which is spectacular. And you can imagine with Kelly Wearstler's design. And then another suite has this, volume of a basketball court where it functions almost like a media room, in the lobby, kind of living room area as you walk into your guest room suite. I think those certainly set this project apart. Another thing that sets the project apart is our partnership on the food and beverage side with Suzanne Goyne and Caroline Stein. If you're a follower of the LA food world, these are two of arguably the most legendary kind of restaurateur chef partnerships in LA. They've been at it for a couple of decades. AOC, Tavern, Luke, and several more behind them. Most of what they've done so far has been on the west side of LA. And so this will be their first project kind of on the east side or in downtown LA. And so I think that's going to be amazing for our guests when we open next year.
Great. It's quite interesting, really. You mentioned these recent projects, how there's a story of how each property comes into being, right? And we certainly know that many travelers, many customers across all businesses are fascinated by the story of how things are made these days. So that's really cool to hear about, your design partners, for every aspect of the business to make it unique.
That's great. Thanks. Yeah. I mean, I think there's so much to it at every level, right? Because there's the kind of the partnership on the design side, in the creation of the hotel. And then you get into the partnerships on the food and beverage side and the partnerships, in music or your partnerships in wellness. I mean, and those aren't partnerships just as you create a hotel. Those are partnerships that you need to keep alive and refresh and revamp, to keep the hotel operating and relevant in the community that you're building.
Sure. All right. And so you mentioned relevancy and community. So we'll use that for kind of my next question here. You seem to have emphasized the importance of local partnerships between your properties, your people, and community causes. So what can you tell us about that, and maybe what's motivated that emphasis for you?
Before I answer that, I would love to tell a little bit about Hotel June, because I didn't get a chance.
Oh, sure. Yes. All right. Let's get back to Hotel June. Sure.
It's our new brand, so I want to make sure to give it the credit it deserves. I mentioned we're a small company, and we only we have 8 hotels that we operate currently. And we decided to start a new brand in this world where everyone thinks there's so many hotel brands out there already. But we did it because, as we've been creating these proper hotels over the last 8 or 10 years or so, we realized they really only work in a few select markets. Proper hotels are at the very highest end of lifestyle, they're new luxury. And so for a proper hotel to work, it needs to be in a market where we can charge, $400 plus a night, which really is only the markets that we're kind of operating in currently and a few others. And we've found through our travels that the United States and the rest of the world has a lot of interesting places with really cool, creative people living there, moving there, doing interesting things there. And those cities and locations oftentimes are the most lacking of hotels like ours. And so that's why we set out to create a new brand, Hotel June, which kind of has the same ethos of proper, but stripped down a bit to be able to offer, a proper like experience, but at a lower price point. And so it's the same traveler as a proper traveler. They have the same passion for design and food and beverage and community, but they are looking for it at a more accessible price point. And so we launched, we launched the first one here in LA in June, right in our backyard. For those of you that are in LA, and I definitely encourage you to come check it out. It's on the very south side of the west side of LA. So it's in the Westchester Playa Vista neighborhood, just north of LAX. The project was done in collaboration with Studio Collective, which is a local design firm here in LA. It was our first hotel collaboration with a designer other than Kelly Wursler in a while. And I think it turned out great. We have an amazing food and beverage partner there, Steve Labigny, and lots of just great outdoor spaces that are perfect for this very moment, even though the project wasn't designed, it was designed well before COVID started.
Right. Well, yeah, congratulations on that again. So I know that's really important to you. And I guess while on Hotel June, so you mentioned the first. So is there a second that you're looking forward to that's on your mind? And if so, whereabouts?
Yeah, so there are the idea is that there will be a second and a third and more. And we're in a couple conversations, far along conversations about some existing lifestyle hotels in different markets around the country that would be kind of rebranded to Hotel June, and then a few other new build ones. But yeah, I mean, the beauty of Hotel June is that it fits in kind of a city like LA, and it could work in a city like LA, but it could work in a place like Salt Lake City or Raleigh, Durham, or other places that proper doesn't work. And so we expect to grow with partners in all those different markets.
Oh, well, that's great to hear. I think that's probably quite encouraging for the industry as well, right? That there's always space, a moment for innovation. Some kind of way, right? So thank you. So back to partnerships, right? So you've spoken already about the importance of partnerships, and so in the importance of a local area to each of your properties. So how do people and your properties and local community partnerships all come together? That seems to be very important to you and the proper brand. So how did that become so important? Why does it remain important for you?
Yeah, so I mean, I think back in my prior life, I was with Viceroy Hotel Group. It was a company that I worked at before I started here. And so 15, 20 years ago, I'd say a design-focused lifestyle hotel really would be successful if it had kind of unique design and a nightclub. And it's like you check those two boxes, and a hotel is something really special, and because it was so different at that point than your more traditional big flagged hotels. These days, that's not enough. And so when we started proper, we really kind of focused on what else is part of the experience. Food and beverage, we've talked about already, being critical. And so we partner with local talent on the food and beverage side to open outlets that are amazing. And so that's a big part of it. But then on the programming side, we realized almost like as if you're going to a membership club, we want our guests when they're traveling to LA, they want to have that type of programming without leaving the hotel, and kind of all through the lens that, we offer. And so we have a team in-house that, all day, every day, they're thinking about programming, and it's a passion of mine and a passion of my partners as well. Even during kind of the post-COVID, time period, a lot of the programming that we had before, whether it was, music or big gatherings or speaker series or something like that, those are maybe things that we can't do right now, but we're doing other things. We just launched a partnership with Tapping Collective. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but they're an amazing kind of art-focused organizations based here in LA, and their kind of business is to promote local artists in LA. And so we did a partnership with them at Hotel June, where we have an artist in residency program, where there's an artist who stays on property. They create a piece of art on property, and that art's promoted and sold on the Tapping Collective website. And then Tapping and each of our hotels then create social content around that residency. So that's, completely COVID safe and a great way to kind of interact with the local community. At Santa Monica proper, we've done some really cool things in the beauty and wellness space. We recognizing that it's a 271 room hotel. It's not full currently, and so since we have the extra space, we said, what can we do with people that we like and respect in the community, and that can provide a cool offering to our guests that are coming to stay with us. And so we did a whole series of pop-ups in beauty. One of them is with Ricari Studio, which is an LA-based wellness company. My wife's a huge fan of theirs, and they've done a long-term pop-up where we incorporate wellness retreats and meditation and yoga. And we did another pop-up with Jimena Garcia, who's she's an eyebrow artist. She's actually Chanel's in-house brow artist. That's really a thing. Chanel has a brow artist. That's a
very fascinating thing, actually. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's amazing. She's been a friend of ours for a long time. And so she's popped up, and I mean, it's like every 15 to 30 minutes, she has someone new coming in, and it's great. It's an offering for our guests. It's great for the community. She's normally booked months in advance, and it just creates this energy in our hotel that everyone's looking for. We've done Pilates pop-ups. We did a non-toxic nail, mani-pedi pop-up with a friend of mine's company, Base Coat. And so it's just endless, the kinds of partnerships that you can do. And it's something that I love about this business more than anything.
That's great, that you've found a way to make each property relevant and unique, and I guess highly differentiated, right? Such that the hotel in a moment becomes a destination.
Yeah.
Right? And maybe however long that moment lasts makes it even more valuable. Yeah, wonderful, wonderful. So I guess as we close, is there anything you would like the world to know happening in the mind of Mr. Brian Lowe?
I'm excited for the world to be out traveling in droves again. I'm trying to think maybe the one other partnership that I'm really proud about is this is a partnership that we formed in the very early days of our company, but I think is as relevant now as ever, is our charitable organization that we created called Proper Giving. The idea of Proper Giving is that we align each of our hotels in each location with local causes that need help the most. So the mission is we give 1% of our time, 1% of our space, and 1% of our management fees back into the local community to support and really have tangible long-term benefits for the organizations within the neighborhoods that need it most. Normally it's within the actual zip code in which our hotels are. And so
Excellent.
We've done, Santa Monica proper's done things with the Boys and Girls Club, which happens to be directly behind the building across 7th Street in Santa Monica. San Francisco proper's done, has had some contributions to St. Anthony's. Hotel June recently did some contributions to Black Lives Matter's LA chapter. And so, yeah, it's just something that's important to us. If we're, a hotel for the community, we want to be more than just kind of the hub culturally, when it comes to food and beverage and music and things like that. We really want to make sure we're giving back and helping our community because they help us.
All right, sure. Well, excellent. Well, thank you so much, Brian. This has been a really good chat with you. So just as we conclude, the industry is certainly alive and well, right? And proper hospitality is certainly a fine example of that with its many brands and its properties, as we've heard most recently about Hotel June. And I know that we are looking forward to seeing the second and the third, as Brian has shared with us. And so thank you for the encouraging spirit that you're bringing to the industry and to people who look forward to traveling again and having an enjoyable place to stay. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Brent. It's a pleasure.